Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into Worn Out. I'm Blake, co-founder of Worn and Wound and Worn Out co-host. We have a very special guest on today's episode, Mark Cho. Mark really needs no introduction to the world of style. As the co-founder of The Armory, he's helped shape the modern landscape of classic menswear. But most recently, he stepped into a new arena with the launch of his own watch brand, Temporal Works. We sat down with Mark to go behind the scenes on what it actually takes to build a watch brand from scratch and learn a bit more about his history in the industry. Mark is no stranger to launching special watch projects, having created limited editions with the likes of Cartier, Bressence, and Moser, just to name a few. And of course, we talk suiting and style. It's a wide-ranging, casual conversation that covers a lot of ground. We hope you enjoy listening to the conversation as much as we did recording it. Thanks for listening. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, we kind of just want to start and hear a little bit about like the genesis of the brand, like what kind of got you thinking about starting a watch brand? Why did you decide to do this silly endeavor?
Silly is right.
Or brilliant. Silly or brilliant, or both.
So the Armory has been doing watch collabs for a while now. We've done them with a lot of different companies. It's always been a super fun process. It's always been really fun trying to understand the collaboration partner's strengths and then bring something to the table. But at the same time, obviously we want to be very respectful of the collaboration partners we're working with, and we're working with their design language and their existing models. And I got to a point where Elliot's my design partner, Elliot and I wanted to see how far we could get on our own, right? Like really like trying to do everything in-house based on our ideas. And that's how we ended up with the Temporal Works, Fortune, and Sector, which you see here on the little table in front of you. How do you want me to explain it? How do you want me to describe it?
No, I mean, I think that, sometimes, and I think you could speak to this, Zach, from conversations we have with brands. I mean, sometimes it's, no one made the watch that I wanted, so I wanted to make the watch that I've always wanted. I think, your thoughts around like working with brands in this collaborative way are really relevant because, again, I think we're used to working with brands in that way too. And I know that you've expressed, sometimes you get more freedom than other, and I get the sense from conversations with you that it has sort of sparked this desire to be like, what does something that's fully my own look like?
100%. And it's fun, whenever I start the conversation with a brand about a collab, I always give them that sort of similar pitch that you just said. I'm like, this is our collaboration. It has to be a collaboration. If you don't want me to touch it, that is welcome as well. Or if you want me to go absolutely nuts, I'm fine doing that. But like, it's your product. So they have to be happy with it too, and not feel like, like I'm stepping on them, or worse, like, well, I mean, this has happened a little bit, but like sometimes you make the version of the watch that you kind of wish they made. But whatever, that's in the past.
So was there like a gap in the market, or just aesthetically a gap that you wanted to fill, or?
Honestly, it was more like at this early stage, it's more like pushing ourselves to try something new. Really pushing ourselves to try and make something on our own. And I'm not ashamed to say it, I really like where we ended up with the Fortune in the Sector. But man, like there's the next version I want to make, and the next version, and the next version, right? Because I feel like there's still so much more iterations of this before it gets to something where I'm like, oh yeah, that's like really what I want. And the problem is that, you have to have just put something out to start with before you can really get to the next step of thinking. So we've been working on this for 3 years, which seems insane to me. And I thought maybe we could get this project done in like a year and a half, 2 years. And I had already bought all the movements. So there's Solita SW210 manual wind movements. I had bought all the movements 2 years ago. Wow. I bought 1,000 of them. And so they've just been sitting at the watchmaker's warehouse like for 2 years now.
Oh, wow.
Which is a little frustrating. And that's at least given me like the impetus to be like, let's get this done, right? Like, let's get this done. Let's get this out there. Let's see what the world thinks of it, because it is mature enough now to be considered like a viable product.
Yeah.
So the design thinking behind this one, I I really love this old Patek called the 565. And the 565 is kind of an unusual model in that it's trying to be sporty, but it's also trying to keep to that like classic Calatrava language. It's a two-part case, so there's no bezel. It's the front and the middle of the case are one piece, and the case back's another piece. And I really love that watch from the front, but I'm really not a fan of that watch from the side. Like it unfortunately has it from the front. It looks like it should be a very curvaceous watch, and yet from the side you realize, oh, it's just kind of like an H shape floating over this tub that then sits on your wrist. So the watch doesn't wrap around your wrist in the way that it suggests when you look at it from the front. And I thought, well, it'd be cool to try and reimagine a successor to the 565 that kind of like solves these problems. And so, the Fortune and the Sector were born as a result. Yeah. We do have like ideas for other watches as well, but right now we want to try and get the Fortune and the Sector off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think, again, just from conversations with folks who started watch brands in the past, I think there's a little bit of what is it, like the dog finally caught the bus effect, where it's like you make the watch and then you realize, wait, I don't know what the next one's going to be. So it's exciting to hear that you have kind of all of these other ideas kind of kicking around in your head.
I mean, we have other ideas, but just as an aside, like I'm always very in awe of like designers, company directors who really have like a vision for what the next decade is going to look like. That's tough. That's really, really tough. And like Hida-san, Naoya Hida, I think he really has an amazing vision for what he wants to be making, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. Berneron is another one. Sylvain Berneron really has amazing vision, and when you see how it executes, when you kind of have a sense of what the plan is and you see how well they're executing against the plan, you're just like, wow, you're just blown away, and it gives you so much more confidence in like buying those watches, owning those watches.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, when you talk to him in particular, I mean, he lays that out for everyone, which is really interesting. It's like part of the talking about the watch that he has here is talking about the next one, and it's talking about the life cycle of them. And it's, I mean, he's probably the most focused person I've met in like from the watch world, and just the way he presents himself in that way. But it's very interesting. I'm kind of curious. So like in the context of these watches and the armory, like, how do you who do you see as the customer for this per se, and like what are they looking for perhaps?
It's it's a great question, because you're right, maybe I should have led with that. So this is a watch for, let me start again. So this is the Navy Blazer of watches. That's what I set out to create, is like the Navy Blazer watches, a watch that's simple, elegant, everyone can wear it. It's meant to be relatively affordable. It's meant to be well constructed, and it's just one of those things that you can own it and you can wear it in a lot of different ways, and you don't really have to think about it too much, And obviously, like, because especially my background is very much a clothing background, right? The fit of it really matters, and the context of how you wear it really matters. So like we really tried to shape the case and the lugs, and even the straps and bracelets to feel like it's really wrapping onto your wrist, like it's become one with you, but also it kind of just blends into you. You won't notice it's there a lot of the time until you actually need to check it. And then, in terms of colors, right? We really tried to focus on like great colors, usable colors for when you're wearing it and you need to figure out, which color do I want to match with my outfit today? Like, because yes, like horology is important, movements are important, incredible engineering is important. But for me personally, I feel strongly also about if you're going to buy these things, you got to wear them, like all the watches that I collect that I don't wear are the ones that I cannot actually physically wear on my body on a regular basis. So I wanted to make watches that people would always feel comfortable wearing all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. Zach, I think, has like developed a real interest in clothing and suiting, and has kind of gotten into that a little bit more.
Clothing, working on my first suit.
Yeah, and obviously, you're kind of at the center of that world in a lot of respects, and have accomplished like a ton. Whereas I feel like I am way on the outside. Like I am not a suit wearer. I am not tailored clothing wearer, and part of it is that I sort of have the feeling where I never feel comfortable wearing it. I never feel comfortable in that skin, so to speak. So it's interesting, and I always admire people who like yourself and Zach who can kind of wear these kinds of clothes and feel comfortable and just kind of go for it. And it's to a certain extent, maybe it's a little analogous to like the concept of like people who can just feel comfortable wearing their watches and aren't quite so precious about it. So I really like that idea of like a watch that you can just wear. It might have the feel of, a luxury piece and be inspired by obviously like very significant pieces, but it's a watch you're supposed to just pick up and wear. And I think also just like kind of looking at it, this is the first time seeing it, earlier today. And we were talking about some of like the subtle color things that are going on with the dial in terms of the brushing. And it's like a very sophisticated design.
Thank you.
Despite, like you were saying, intended to be like that navy blazer of the watch.
Yeah, it's meant to be subtle. And, I say navy blazer because I think of a navy blazer as something every man should own, right? And because you can wear it with jeans, hell, you can wear it with shorts if you're in Australia, right? Like, or you can wear it very formally with a pair of trousers and a necktie. And there's something very, there's something almost very democratic about it. Like everyone should have a navy blazer. It's just a handy thing to have, If you had to go out to a friend's wedding, right, and you're not really a suit guy, still wear a navy blazer, You would look a little bit more polished and it would be respectful of the occasion, So I do hope you come and join us in tailored clothing land. Like it doesn't have to be everything you wear, but I think that there's always a time and place for tailored clothing. And I guess because I'm so used to it, right? Like if you ask me, oh man, what's the thing I use most? I would probably say navy blazer more than even my blue jeans. But conversely for you, maybe for you and your world of style, like maybe blue jeans are the thing, or maybe boots are the thing, something like that.
I honestly, a big part of it's just like being like this kind of larger dude. It's just like I always find like going into stores, I have a hard time finding clothes that like really fit, and I've like yet to like really make the plunge and get something kind of like tailored to myself. But maybe that's the key,
Well, come see us. I mean, being able to do custom, obviously, is really, really helpful for if you're a larger guy. And there's like different ways that larger guys can work with their frame, right? Do you want to emphasize it? Do you want to de-emphasize it? Do you want to kind of like visually reshape it a little bit? And every guy is going to have a different take on that too. Style is a super personal thing, Style is a super personal thing, and it takes you a long time actually to figure it out because it requires you to have some understanding of yourself also. Like I like to describe it like this. Like I always say, clothing is a language, right? Clothing is a visual language. When you walk into a room, people don't hear your voice, they don't hear your thoughts first, they see you first. And so what you're wearing needs to be able to project what you hope they will understand about you, right? So style is language, clothing is a language. The items that you wear on your body, that's the vocabulary, that's the grammar, And some people speak it really well, and some people need a bit of help, but it's just a skill. Everyone can get there. Everyone can get there. And I think the guys who look the best are not the guys wearing the most tailored thing or the most fancy thing. The guys who look the best are the ones who look like their clothes exactly fit who they are as a person. If you can get that right, then like looking good is just a natural byproduct of like having the right clothing for you as a person.
Yeah.
And the same goes with watches, because watches are things that you wear on the body. And so you're always looking for that visual coherence.
That's something that I've felt and tried to articulate for myself in like watch collecting is, 15 odd years into this now, like my collection's radically different than where it was obviously when I started for various reasons, but I think my taste is really developed, and it's like, it's that sort of finding yourself in the product that is, you don't know it until you see it, sort of a thing. And I guess for me, like the people who I see in a room who I'm like maybe a little bit envious of in terms of their style, it's not the clothing, it's the comfort level of them. It's like they are like just so effortlessly in the thing that they're in, because I guess it's like so them, right? They're not even thinking. I mean, it could be anything, like something I would never myself want to be dressed in, but you're just like, that is you. You did a good job.
And they figured it out. Right. They figured it out. They're wearing the clothing. The clothing's not wearing them.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The comfort is really like when I, like yourself, where you're dressed today, obviously a lot more formal than I am. And like, but you look just as comfortable as I do. Like you come across like you're very comfortable and like, whereas like again, we don't need to keep going down this rabbit hole, but like my experience has always been like the exact opposite. It's like you crank up the discomfort.
I would have loved to see us like in the early years of Basel in our like Men's Warehouse suits that we bought like days before that, nothing wrong with Men's Warehouse, but it's just like, I'm sure they weren't tailored super well to us. And like, I remember being physically like, like the whole time kind of.
I mean, you'll probably like throw up a little in your mouth, but like I remember going to like a very early Basel and realizing I didn't have black dress shoes and going to like just like a discount store and getting a pair of black dress shoes that I think were all plastic. Like I think they were like, they predated Crocs and they were just like a single piece of molded plastic. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. At least
they're black, at least.
Squeak when you walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so do you feel like that's kind of that philosophy of like being comfortable and like, do you feel like that's kind of something you wanted to bring to the watches? Like kind of like to your point about being something you can just put on every day. Like,
like our attitude towards the Army's attitude towards clothing definitely spills over into this watch, right? It's comfortable, and it's comfortable because it doesn't shout. Like you put it on and it feels good, and it's not in your face and it's not in anyone else's face, but if someone has a glance, like, oh, it's nice, or you look at it, oh, it's nice. That's all you need.
So how did you settle on the two designs of these initial watches? So two of them are sort of sector dial designs, one black, one blue, or one gray, black, one blue. And then you have this sort of red dial with like very limited markers on it. Like, how did you wind up there?
I think for your audience, I'm just going to give you like the honest, unvarnished truth.
Okay.
So the sector dial was the one we really wanted to start with just because we love sector dials, and like Elliot and I love graphic design, and there's a lot you can do, graphically speaking, with sector dials, right? They're super interesting. But we were also like prototyping other stuff, and we were just like really struggling with these sector dials. We were like, it's not quite right. It's like something missing. Something's a little off balance. Really struggling with it. And then we did the solid color, and the solid color ended up being great. And we're like, okay, you know what? I think we should launch the sector and the solid at the same time. And then we realized, oh, actually, we never put our brand name on the front of the watch. We have the little TW logo on the sector dial, but it wasn't really compatible with having Temporal Works written out on it, And so as a result, like, I really wanted the red dial to be part of the initial launch of this watch because A, it spells out our name very clearly, which seems minor, but to me it matters, right? And B, like, red is a beautiful, auspicious color, and it just seemed appropriate for like the start of a new project. Yeah. A little bit of fun trivia on the sector dial. I really have to say thanks to Andrew Lauren. Andrew Lauren obviously knows clothes well. He's not such a big watch guy, but he's starting to get into it. But he just has a great eye for detail and for all things visual. He's a film producer at the end of the day. And I was showing him one of the early sector dials, and he was like, oh, it's cool, but it seems like a little off, like in relation to the case. And, I had been so deep into it, like so tunnel vision into it, I couldn't see it. And then his comment really like woke me and Elliot up. And then we redesigned everything for the 9 billionth time. And they're like, okay, now it works. Now this friggin' thing works,
Yeah.
Because I mean, you guys know too, like you guys do collabs. Sometimes when you're just looking at it on a computer, and especially when you get down to just looking at the dial, you even forget like the case exists, and you start to forget the context a little bit. And that's when you can make some really bad design choices. So I'm really thankful that Andrew. Sorry. I'm really glad that Andrew brought this up with us. And I'm actually having dinner with him tonight, so I'm going to show it to him and see what he thinks.
Yeah. Hopefully he likes it, and then you don't have to change it again.
Yeah, it's too late to change it.
Was it like, so like the 3-year process, like Was it honing little things like that, or was it the ergonomics? Like, what really would you say took the longest for you?
I like getting in the weeds with you guys, especially because you understand the process a bit more. Like a lot of time was spent on the case. The case is a key feature of the watch. And it's like, I wanted to have that old school small dial big case feeling. You know what I mean? Like you see it sometimes on like older divers. You don't see it so much on the older dress watches, but definitely on like the older sort of semi-sporty sort of watches really had that look dialed in. I love that, right? So it was a matter of like, how do we figure out the proportions of this? Like how much is left on the sloping part of the bezel? How much is left on the flat part of the bezel? That was something that I went back and forth on quite a lot. That's one thing. The tips of the bezel themselves, what's the curvature, what's the angle, how does it end, how does it look on the bottom of the bezel? That was something we considered a lot. And then like the profile of it, right? Obviously, we do prefer to try and have the crown centered. That's one thing. But then we also thought a lot about, and we prototyped quite a few, where does the strap sit in relation to the center of the case, And the thing is, like, the lower you can sink the strap, the more it's going to feel like the watch is hugging you. And we went and did even some quite extreme ones where it was like significantly below the bottom of the case, which we realized actually there is a balance. Like there's a point where it works and there's another point where it doesn't work. And so it took a little while to find that sweet spot as well.
That's interesting,
yeah. We make the whole watch in Japan. I generally like working with Japanese suppliers. I've always had a good history working with Japanese suppliers. And this particular Japanese supplier we work with makes their cases in-house. And they're very, very, very good at cases. And they do work with some of the other big brands as well. But with a case shaped like this, like where these sloped parts on the top meet these inward parts on the side, like having that crisp line, keeping those crisp lines there was really, really, really important to me. And then on top of that, also, because it's a polished case, you don't want to get weird distortion, Like if you look at yourself in the case, it distorts a little bit, but it distorts only in the way the case is shaped. It doesn't get like the sudden weird wobble or anything like that. And that was also really, really important to me.
And that's not the easiest thing to achieve either.
Like, it's not. You have to have a pretty skillful and experienced polisher.
Yeah.
Because those things are still done by hand. For real, those are still on the, you hear about like Grand Seiko's Zaratsu machine, right? There's a Zaratsu machine is an important part of that very fine polishing process, but at the end of the day, it's the skill of the guy. It's the skill of the guy knowing the pressure necessary, the angles necessary to achieve like really consistent, smooth surfaces.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, in order to achieve that on here too, because you have a curved surface, like I imagine if you could like picture this without the shape cut out, like you have like a perfect curved like dome, right? Because any variation there will distort. Which, the slightest over too much pressure, and you'll see that. So, is that something that took them some time to kind of perfect and kind of get the skill for, or were they luckily just good at it?
I gotta say, they just nailed it.
Yeah.
This wasn't like do it again sort of thing. They just nailed it.
Yeah.
They were great. And, we have some other ideas for case finishing in the pipeline for future models. But I felt like this was a good place for us to start.
I feel like also like, for the price point you're talking about, which is around $2,000 to $2,500?
$2,500 US.
$2,500. Yeah, like, you have this like geometrically very seemingly simple, like at a glance seems simple, but then like these are like, that's the kind of feature, that polishing where like you have to make a high quality watch to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, this is a very minor detail, but you mentioned the crown. I love the crown on this.
Oh, thank you.
It's very simple. It sounds so silly, but it's just like, it's very easy to turn. It's very easy to manipulate. I don't know that a lot of folks like always give enough thought to the crown. And, it's like that right balance of big enough and tactile enough for you to like really handle and interact with effortlessly, but proportioned right so that it's not digging into your wrist and feeling like a little too in your face.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys really nailed it here. Especially I have these big kind of like sausage fingers, and I'm like really able to handle it really easily.
That's really
which is
nice
cool.
to hear. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm also glad the first crown, or I mean it was the second or third crown we designed, was really cool and utterly impractical. So, this is a crown with however many teeth. I forget how many. And we made one crown where it didn't have teeth. It just had 3 notches. And it looked super cool. But then you're like, that didn't work
like
at all.
slipping between.
Yeah,
I would like to revisit that design at some point, though, because I think that one has legs. But yes, this one works well. It works well with the proportion of the case. And we were able to recess it slightly into the case, which was important to me, too. Like, I like it when crowns feel a little bit more like part of the case rather than a thing that sticks out of the case.
Totally, yeah.
Although I guess maybe that's where the term crown comes from, right?
Kind of sits right on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a really, it's sort of balanced very well. And like I said, it sometimes can seem like an afterthought, even on like rather expensive or like mass-produced pieces. We were chatting a little bit earlier too about the hands, which are really interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
So the hands, I'm really pleased with how the hands turned out. The hands are what we call pen nib hands. So they're obviously shaped a little bit like a pen nib. The hands are 3 facets, so it's 2 sloped facets on the side, and then there's a central kind of matte channel along the middle, and then that's also got a little hole in it, so you can actually see through the hands. It's like a little bit of our nod towards skeletonized hands, because I've always loved skeletonized hands. You don't see them too often. And then, with this style of hand, one day, if we make something that's a bit more of a sportier design and we wanted to have loom, it would be easy to just fill the little hole with loom.
It's particularly noticeable in the red, where the red pops through that line there. Because there's a very fine gap, but it's very elegant.
Thank you.
I'm probably just not aware, pen nib hand. Is that sort of a phrase you guys termed in-house, or is that just a style of hand that
I don't know. We made it up because we were like, oh, we want this to be a bit like a pen nib.
Yeah, I like it. I like that concept. Yeah.
What's the height? Do you know offhand? The thickness?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, actually. I should know these things by now, but it
feels
around
thin.
10. It might even be a little bit less than 10.
Yeah, I imagine with the crystal maybe. It reads very thin.
Do you have a caliper handy?
Not in this room at the moment. There's calipers all over the office, but
is it in the press release?
I don't. Something that I really I like that you did here that I also like kind of look for and watch is it's just not having the completely flat side.
Yeah.
And there's some watches where it makes sense, others where it doesn't. But like there's a subtle curve, so you're tapering up and out, and then you're curving over.
Yeah.
And that just makes it just read. It creates just enough of an illusion of thinness and like the contour along the side is just a little bit more dramatic.
Right.
But then, like you said, you have that edge there, and so you have a greater than 90-degree edge. So like you have to get it sharp, but then it could like cut you if they did it too sharp too. So like getting that finessed without blurring it is really, that's a tough thing to achieve.
So weirdly, laptops do that a lot. If you look at laptops, most laptops scallop inwards.
Interesting.
And it's to make it seem a little bit thinner.
Yeah.
But the effect is most pronounced when you actually have it sitting on the wrist, right? In the air, it's not as noticeable, but on the wrist, it really makes it appear even thinner than it is.
So obviously you've released special editions, limited editions with brands in the past, but this is a whole different beast, a product of your own design.
Yeah.
Tip to toe. Is it a different experience in the anticipation of release? Are you feeling a little different about it, or?
Yeah, definitely feeling very different about it. A lot more, if this goes badly, there's only one person to blame, not 2 people to blame. So I can't split the blame on that one. But also just, like I said, I want it to be the Navy Blazer watches. So they're not limited edition. They're open editions. We're just our starting production is just 50 pieces of each. and then we'll see where it goes. Like if it's super successful, we'll keep keep producing certain styles if the market's there for it, and if it's not, then we'll stop it and we'll work on something else.
Yeah. I think there's a lot
nerve-wracking, to be honest. The whole thing. It's coming out in like a month. It's a little nerve-wracking.
I'm sure it'll be great.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, again, like talking to anytime somebody starts a product company of any kind or launches a line, I think you put all this effort into it, and you're very intentional about everything. And, I'm sure a handful of years down the road when you've made X number of additional lines, you'll look back at this one and have a million things you want to change, and all these different learnings and things like that. But
it's something I said to somebody recently, and like it's a weird way to think of it, but it's like you could think of your first watch as also your worst watch, like you've ever made. I mean, which is not the approach one should take. That like, oh, this is gonna be, but like because there's just improvements that'll naturally occur in every way, and like I mean, but saying this to somebody you've made a lot of products.
Yeah.
So it's not like your first time producing anything. I think a lot of people we meet have gone from like a totally different industry to like, I'm making something now, like what's going to happen? But I mean, I'm actually kind of curious, has your experience with other types of manufacturing and fabrication, like has that helped in any part of this process?
It's a good question. I mean, in terms of the manufacturing process, with clothing, like, there's some similarities, right? There's some similarities in that you're preparing all the cloth early. Like we prepare our cloth about 12 months before release of an actual final garment, because we have to search for or design the cloth, then we have to order the quantities correctly for the estimated final production. Then we have to actually work on the design of the garment itself, and then the cloth and the design of the garment get put together, and that turns eventually into like a final product. So at least we have like some sense of like, yes, there's a lot of steps to it, and actually what's interesting is that there are parallels too in terms of how we put this watch together and how we put our clothing together, in that we want to do it on a, how do I put it? It's like, how cars have a shared chassis among multiple models, right? Like our clothing is a bit like that. We have multiple models of jacket. We have the 3, the 6, the 11, the 12, the 16, and they all represent kind of different styles of tailored clothing. And then we, tweak those and add different cloths to these pre-existing models. And with the watch, the same thing, right? Like that's the case that I want to be using for quite a while. I really like that case. I really want to use it for quite a while, but there's lots of little things I can do to that case to create a new product from it, right? The way we finish it, or the way we're doing case backs, or the way we're doing the crystal of it, or the way where we're doing the dial, obviously, and the hands, obviously. Like there's still a lot of room to play once you've set that initial framework. So I think that sense of like, listen, if you can build a base and you can create a framework, that can lead to this bunch of products above the framework. Like that's a logic that I understand. I'm pretty used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to it's sort of a funny idea, that when a brand would make put all this effort into case design and then sort of abandon it for their next line, when per the conversation you guys were having earlier, like just how much thought goes into every little detail of a case when it's done properly. I really like the idea of like seeing it to its logical conclusion. Like how many different ways can you interpret that same case? You just put so much effort into it, if you're doing it right. I think something we talk about with case design, or you've made this point, and you talked about how the case looks from the side and how it wears, and just like thinking about these different facets. And you've commented, it's like you can kind of tell when a watch comes in and it's very clear that it was designed exclusively from the top down, and then like given to a manufacturer and they interpret whatever the case may be. And like I said, if you're going to put all this thought into it, I'm excited to see what other sort of iterations you guys can come up with.
Thank you.
Those are made by dial people.
Yeah.
Like they're looking for a cool dial and they forget like the realities of 3 dimensions. I mean, that's, part of what's so cool about watches is that it has to succeed on like a graphic level, a three-dimensional level, a style level, an ergonomic level. It's like it's very easy to underestimate any of those aspects. And yeah, when you get something right, I think Ming is a good example of a brand that like, they have their number like 27 or whatever. Like that's a generational case, and like they kind of seems like he gets like the most out of it.
Yeah.
Before moving on to the next thing, which he's developing for a long time. And I guess he goes a step further. He has this like real DNA that's like so so visual and visible in everything. Whereas I don't know if that's your goal, or if you're gonna at some point 5-10 years online like have a radically different case that's gonna sit next to this. But
I think that would be the right next step, is to make something really different and come back and revisit this case design in future. But I think we're talking about relatively far down the road.
Yeah.
Although just speaking also about like the dial designer, not talking to the case designer sort of thing, do you remember when Tag came out with the glass box chronograph? That was an awesome chronograph. I thought they did such a nice job with it. It's
the Carrera that's just like yeah.
And I was talking to someone internally, and then they were like, oh yeah, we managed to make that finally because the different departments started to talk to each other properly. It wasn't like the case guys were doing their own thing, the movement guys were doing their own thing. Like no, like everyone got together and like talked about it properly and managed to like create something that felt a bit more integrated and a bit more seamless. Because with a big company, like I guess that's part of it, right? Like it is very difficult to maintain coherence over so many different people. And that's why also when you have like really strong creative directors, I mean, like look at Fabrizio Bonamassa over at Bulgari, right? And it's like all those items are great, but they're also super coherent as a collection. I really respect people who can put together these like coherent collections with just like very consistent thinking, very consistent design language, all attractive, all in different ways.
Yeah. Do you think that is influenced at all by your background in sort of fashion and clothing? Do you think that sort of like concept of like the cohesive design being important to you?
I think it's probably more related to my background in the business of running fashion brands and just like watching how other people operate and do stuff. Because actually, weirdly, like the Armory's clothing collection is driven very much by my own taste and like a couple of my colleagues' tastes, but it's also very like practically driven. As in, it's like, look, we know we're always going to have a customer who really needs to have a good navy, good olive, good brown blazer this season. So yes, we can have as many crazy ideas as we want, but we got to make sure at least we hit those main bases, because those are the things that people need, and we want to be able to deliver it to them. Whereas like with watches, I think it's a little bit more, oh, you can do whatever you want, and you got to try and show the world why they need it.
Yeah. That's interesting. So this is kind of, not to change the subject, this maybe is a little bit of a hot take question to put you on the spot.
No, sure.
So I mean, I think you obviously are very like familiar with sort of the taste and like the trends that are going on in the men's style, men's fashion world.
I don't, but please go ahead.
Or you have good taste, I think is maybe another way of putting it. Is there any sort of like taste or trend in the watch world that you identify that you're very for or very against? Preferably very against, because we're trying to get a hot take out of you. You have so many.
How do I say that and not offend anybody?
It's okay to offend. We do it all the time.
You should.
Okay. My hot take is, I hate that people say there's a trend towards smaller watches, because I don't think that's the right way to describe what's happening. I think that people are waking up to the fact that a lot of watches are not the right size for them. And they're asking manufacturers more and more vocally, please make something for my size. This does not mean that there should not be larger watches, because there are people who are large and they need a larger watch, but there are also people who are smaller and they need a smaller watch, So this is not a trend of like, oh, well, it's going to be so cool to have a smaller watch. No, it's just like people are trying to wear stuff that fits them. And that stuff that fits them didn't used to be in the market. And slowly, now it's coming back into the market. That's my hot take.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's funny that the way that like kind of case size is treated as a trend, whereas other aspects of a watch's design might not be, like water resistance or whatever the case may be. Like some watches should be a little bit on the smaller side, again, for the wearer, but even from the design perspective.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. Like the Speedmaster is a watch that doesn't really look right, shrunken.
Right.
I like the reduced, but I definitely don't like it as much as the full size. Some watches are just meant to be big.
Yeah.
Like when I see the smaller Panerai, it's okay, but I like the big one. I get why it's big. It's meant to be big.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost feel like because, not to call it a trend, but there have been sort of this like proliferation of smaller watches that like more often than not, I see watches and I think, oh, I would really love to see that scaled up a little bit because like people just aren't making. And actually talking to, we were happened just like a month or so ago, and talking to some micro brands who maybe felt a little bit of pressure to move in that smaller case size space. Like their customers are starting to say like, what happened to the bigger watches? Like we want the larger case watches, which I thought was really interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of like the pendulum swung,
Yeah. I feel like, when watches, this weird little hobby of ours, started to get much more mainstream, and then, you had the content coming out of like, oh, Tyler the Creator is wearing a woman's watch on his wrist. Small watches are in. It was that kind of like that was sort of the wrong sort of take from it, right? Almost. And
I
then,
think so.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I'm wearing
That's
a 42
just
millimeter.
Women's watches are in. That's not small.
Yeah.
This is women's watches.
Or it's just like, he had a good eye for something that did not take into account this ridiculous gendering of these things, and it's just, and it made sense, but then the trend starts and everyone thinks they're, I mean, I have a 42 millimeter watch on. That's huge for me, but that works on that watch. And, my general size is probably like 36 to 38 is what feels right. But like, it also, depends on the watch. Like, I feel like like this one in particular, like no markings on that. Suddenly someone's like, I need a large one of these, and you made like 45 millimeters, that'd be a crazy looking one. Just
that'd be a stop sign.
Yeah, exactly. So like, but it's also, I guess people need to accept like not everything. You can't get everything, right? Brand is not obligated to make the thing for you.
Yeah.
Unless they're Tudor, apparently, and then they do. Yeah. Now like 37, 39, 40, 41, 43.
Yeah. I actually wonder how much of Rolex and Tudor's success can be attributed to the fact that they've historically always made quite a few sizes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they try to satisfy for everyone rather than going really deep on design at this point, right? I mean, I guess, take a grain of salt, but yeah. Nomos is another brand that did that recently. I mean, I feel like they went so far into the range of sizes, whereas they, like, to me, if I were to describe Nomos, it's like, oh, it's a 36 to 38 millimeter watch. Like that's how I remember it. But I think now, I mean, they've really ranged. But I think we've talked a little bit at the sacrifice of like novelty over the last several years.
Yeah. It is a matter of kind of the resource allocation of your company, right? Like time, the research and development time of your company, the marketing time of your company. You do have to pick and choose, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think Nomos is sort of an interesting example of like, what would that watch look like blown up? I think, love Nomos. Their watches are incredible. Like some of those larger Ahoys, I'm like, whoa, that does not need to be that large. That looks kind of nice. Yeah, exactly.
I do love the 36 millimeter Ahoy though. I have one, and it's great. My wife always steals it.
Yeah. That's funny. So when are these watches slated to come out, and where can people get them?
So they'll be available on our online store and in our physical stores. They are coming out, I hope I get this right. They're coming out, I'm pretty sure it's December 4th.
Okay.
Well, they might
Nick,
be out
our PR friend over there, seems to think it's December 2, but I'm like 80% sure.
Okay, we can just edit the audio. They're definitely coming on December 4th. And
They're coming
Or they're out
early
already.
December.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. And are they shipping right away, or is there a pre-order?
Yeah, we'll have stock. They'll be shipping right away.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.
I didn't want to do a whole like pre-order thing with this. I just wanted to be like, it's there. If you want it, come see it. And I'll be in New York that week. I'm going to spend some time at both of the stores, uptown and downtown. So if you want to come see it, meet me, talk to me about it, like I'm more than happy to share some thoughts about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, unless you have any other questions, I think this is as good of a place to.
No, I mean, I'm excited to see how these go for you. You know, I think it's a knowing your interest in watches, knowing the work you've done with brands. Like this feels like a very like logical place for you to go. If not, certainly not an easy place, but like, you know, that somebody who comes into a store of yours, and I imagine, you know, wants to get the full treatment, maybe doesn't, you know, have their own watches, then you can like recommend them the watch that was made in that same sort of aesthetic concept. So yeah.
I made it kind of for my customers. So
yeah. Well, congrats again, and thanks very much for joining us for the.
No, thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure. All right, great to chat with you guys, and I love what you guys are doing here at Warren & Wine.
Thank you very much.